Somebody home?
I don't know. The Mothman? What does the Mothman sound like? Hooty hoo! Hooty hi! Whippoorwill! Hey, Mothman.
Hey.
Hey, guys. Don't call me that. My name's Dale.
I told you my name's Dale.
Just walks in with a briefcase.
He walks in. I'm expecting my royalties check. Where are you, little ginger bitch?
You make me sound like a Weasley. Yeah, I'm going to picture myself on this show as Ron Weasley.
No, you're a very strong man. And there's not enough room. We are not fighting in here.
Powerlifting Ron Weasley. That's Royd Weasley.
Royd Weasley. Ron, you're such a...
I'm such a what?
Sorry, Ron. I'm real sorry.
I didn't mean it. What a sissy.
Well, hey guys, what's going on here? River Sullivan coming at you right here, right now, pre-recorded for your live listening pleasure, for another episode of Season 3 of This Evening Tonight. And with me here, not yet again, for this is his first time here on the show, a good friend of mine from the extended family of brothers from other mothers, my little ginger sparrow, Buck Strickland, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, Buck, how are you?
Great.
Welcome to the show. It's your first time getting your cherry popped.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
How's it feel? What do you think? Studio setup, decent? Yay, nay?
Yeah, it's pretty sweet. I like it. It's like a murder room, but I doubt if any murders have taken place here. There's no plastic on the floor, so that's a good sign.
Well, I mean, the carpet is red.
Oh, those are stains.
It was a white carpet, but the previous owners were smokers and bleeders, if you will.
Why is there no doorknob on the inside?
That's for you to know and me to not tell you.
Okay.
So to start the show off the right way, like we've always done, with the exception of, I guess, the first 2 episodes of this season, because my brain just got a case of the old 2020s, we're going to talk a little bit about today's coffee. In today's coffee, we hearkened back to good old PlayerOneCoffee.com, where it was home of our original reigning champion of coffee, the Neves Gaming World Peace Guatemalan Medium Roast. This week, we're drinking the Summer Solstice from Player One Coffee. Got the bag right here in my hand from the regions of South and Central America with cupping notes of sweet honey undertones, smooth finish with a balanced acidity. Would you say that's accurate, Buck?
Yeah, I'd say so. It's really light.
It is, and I ran a decent amount through the French press and let it steep, but...
Yeah, I mean, it's good.
Oh,
good light roast.
Sweet Jesus, that is perfect. I know it says summer solstice, but is the solstice the beginning or the end of summer?
I can't remember. I feel like it's the beginning.
I feel like it's the end just because I want it to be. Because we're starting fall. And that's in what, September 22nd, I think, is first day of fall?
Yes.
Yeah, date of recording as of the 18th, so by the time this episode comes out... Happy fall, y'all. But it says here the summer solstice is made from a select combination of Central and South American coffees. This wonderful brew is incredible. Lightly roasted to allow the natural flavor of the varieties to ensure the perfect medium-bodied brew. Again, Player One Coffee, you guys are out there. Hook a brother up. River Sullivan needs his River Sullivan roast. And I've got some ideas to share.
It could flow like a river.
Yeah. I was about to be like, yes, this will. Oh, I see what you did there.
Yeah,
playing with the name. Well, it's not all we've got, though, in the grand scheme of things here, guys, because let's talk this week a little bit about something that everybody, I think, they've had this once or twice in their life. And that's the urge to break free of those earthly bounds, of those mortal chains of regular-ass employment being stuck behind a desk from 9 to 5. Maybe you're one of the lucky ones to get weekends and holidays off, or maybe you're ones like us that do shift work and haven't seen a real holiday or real weekend since, I don't know, high school. What we're talking about is that itch, guys, for the hustle. That itch to make an extra buck. Break yourself free from the humdrum ways of life and just living it in general, but living it inside of your own terms. What we're talking about here is that hustle being Small business. There's going to be some great music to that, too, and then just and nothing.
Small business Saturday.
Small business Tuesdays. Swensdays is the upload.
And we're going with more puns.
Swensdays. So, with that, Buck and I have worked together here on occasion. Wonderful coworker. Not to give him too much of a verbal blowy. But tell me a little bit about your small business hustling adventures.
Well, lots of people have side hustles with their normal jobs. I mean, you just get tired of doing what you're doing when you're not your own boss, I think.
Break up the monotony.
Yeah, so for me, I mean, I have other opportunities to make money through work, but it's still work. So one day, I just sort of realized after people consistently telling me, hey, this is great, or this is really good whenever I barbecue.
You got something there, you know?
Yeah, I was like, well, maybe I should sell this to people. Or, I mean, I started out just giving it away to people, and just seeing people enjoy something that I'd put together and made was enough. But then it seemed like every time I was giving that to someone else, they were saying, man, this is great, you should sell it. I'm like, no, I'm fine. I just, I like people enjoying it. And then as I'd given it away to most of my friends and all of them had told me to sell it, I put some ideas together and here we are. I sell it. So,
what product is it that you are speaking of that it is that you sell that people enjoy that they told you to sell?
Well, I blend spice rubs for barbecue.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just put those rubs and spices that I blended together under the name Appalachian Huntsman. And the name just sort of came to me because I decided to put everything that I could find together from Appalachia. So that was important to me. I mean, It started out here. It was made here. All of my friends are here. So I wanted to take something that was important to me and put it into the name. And at the same time, I wanted it to be a name that I could sort of work the names of my blends into.
It's branding right there. Branding 101. Just being able to, 1, original, 2, catchy, memorable.
But also didn't want it to be too regional.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, of course, being in West Virginia, I could have called it West Virginia something or Mountaineer this, Mountaineer that.
A lot of people try to capitalize on that in this state. Mountaineer or using the name of the state.
Right, or coal.
We get it.
Black bears. I mean, there's a ton of things that you could use.
Black bear's kind of far off, I think. There's
Right.
black bears other places.
Right.
But what do you got against black bears, huh, Buck?
I don't have anything against them. They could kill me, so I'm not gonna talk about black bears. But no, I mean, I think Appalachia is really sort of all-encompassing for our lifestyles in this part of the world, in Appalachia. I mean, and that doesn't just include the mountain range or one specific state or city. It's a lot of people can tie into Appalachia.
Okay. Now, a couple questions here for you then. Out of everything that it is that we can enjoy to do in that side hustle, that side business, that thing that makes us truly happy, the passion and progress, how was it that you found yourself on the path of becoming I don't know, what would you call this profession? Or are you a rubologist?
I really don't know. I mean, I think every person has that dad or just that guy that barbecues.
Yeah.
And that's what they do. I mean, you see people all the time in roadside shacks barbecuing, and you see people running barbecue restaurants or just small businesses that are food related in general. I mean, it doesn't have to be barbecue. At the end of the day, we all know that person. So take that idea, and instead of being the person that does that, you try to become the person that people go to further what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, everybody can make their own rubs or their own seasoning salts or whatever, but, if more people are finding yours and liking that, then...
Okay. So just like you said, anybody can make their own rubs. A lot of people go online or Etsy or wherever it is or some cooking website, and they can find it, make it, and enjoy it.
Right.
But where is it that you draw your inspiration to want to make this and continue to make it? Like that's your thing. Like you said, everybody has that guy.
Right.
But you're trying to be that guy that also makes it make something out of it. You know what
Well,
I mean?
I think at the same time, every time I cook or every time I put a new blend together and I try it and I like it, I'm like, man, I made this and this is good.
Mm-hmm.
And then, just the feedback from other people enjoying it brings me joy. But then at the same time, knowing that, I put a lot of work into these things that I make, and I support other small businesses. Everything that goes into my blends is Appalachian sourced.
Mm-hmm.
The blends that I can't grind or do myself, I source from one other person that's also in Appalachia, and I know that the things they are putting out is sourced from a certain place, so it's consistency across the board. For me, just knowing that I'm not putting out a basic grocery store product.
Yeah.
And other people are catching on to that. It all comes down to bringing yourself joy whenever you have a small business. I don't think anybody that has a small business can look at it day in and day out and say, man, I really hate what I'm doing. I don't know why I started this, because it's a lot of work.
Yeah. That was the thing that, we've talked about that is the struggle I do for my side hustle outside of my regular employment is doing voiceover work. It's an investment, it's time, it's you plugging away at it for hours on end. Maybe you're trying to get a mix right. Maybe I'm trying to get a sound particularly right, but it's a long journey.
Right. It's also cool to see your own progression.
Mm-hmm.
I started out doing this, making literally a batch for me to cook with at a time. Measuring these things out in teaspoons, tablespoons at a time, to where I started selling it to people and I was measuring it out cups at a time, to where now whenever I get these spices put together, I'm measuring it out pounds at a time.
And I heard you just got the lease up there for your factory. I'm just kidding. That's coming though. I feel like it. Now, okay, you brought me 2 rubs here today, and the one here, black packaging, clear back, and kind of like an orange, maybe even a salmon tone to it. Which one is this?
The orange one is called Bat Boy. It's a pork and rib rub. At least that's what it started out as. It has a lot of things in it, but it found its calling on pork butts.
Okay.
I think a lot of people know about finding their calling on butts. Mine are different. But no, it was mainly developed starting out on pulled pork. And then I realized it didn't have to just be on pulled pork. It's great on ribs too. But that really went from more of a pork and rib rub to an all-purpose thing. People have literally messaged me and said, I put this on potatoes and it was awesome. Or,
oh, yeah?
I love this on fried eggs. It's what I start my morning with.
Well, I don't have any pork butts on the set here, if you will. But if you don't mind, I'm gonna mainline this. I'm gonna like TJ Hooker moment. I'm gonna
get yourself
open this.
Get yourself a gagger there. Why's your nose bleeding? Don't use the Capri Sun
these
straw.
are what the 4 ounces.
Those are 2 ounces by weight.
That's a lot for 2 ounces.
Yeah, it seems like it. One package will easily do a whole pork butt. Maybe 2. It just depends on how you use it. I actually had someone make that into an injection as well. Just put olive oil in it and injected it into a whole hog.
I've got a finger full of this. I'm just going to ASMR. It's got a little heat to it.
A little, not much.
Not much, I imagine. Yeah, you do this over a whole pork butt.
Yeah, the heat probably comes from the fact that it is fairly salty. And
that's very good, though. Man, I could see that on do that over like a braised salmon almost.
Yeah, like I said, it's good on a lot of stuff. I haven't had it on fish, but
it's damn near an all-purpose seasoning.
Yeah.
All right.
It's great on human. What?
The sweet meat. So what's this second one here? We got black back, clear backing, and looks just all black.
Yeah, that one's called Mothman's steak and brisket dust. It's great on anything that's beef. It's your basic everyday blend that can go on pretty much any red meat, but it's black in color. I just tell everybody that's Mothman wing dust. It's my secret ingredient. It was very hard to come by.
So, I know Bat Boy from, was it National Enquirer?
Yeah, he was supposedly based in caves in West Virginia.
Ooh. That Mothman dust is beautifully balanced.
Yeah, there's a lot in there. A lot of people will base any beef seasoning with just garlic and onion. Try to take it a step above that.
I'd pound that on a raw steak and then throw it on the grill.
Yeah, it's good on burgers apparently too.
I feel like smoke would really do wonders with that flavor too.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm not trying to get too barbecue nerdy, but
That's the point of the show, man. All
yeah.
makes, all models, all walks of life here. I'd love to learn more.
A basic competition of woods, which you'd have, maple, hickory, cherry, that kind of thing. Goes good with red meat. And
hey, is oak a good seasoner wood, whatever?
it depends on what you're trying to make with it, but it's a very balanced wood and it burns hot. So
Yeah, I got a lot of that red oak. I didn't know if there was excess things I could do with it other than burn it.
you can definitely smoke with it, but I mean, I use pellet grills because they're simplistic, but you could easily put it on a smoker as long as it hasn't been, treated with a bunch of pesticide. You don't want that, but
So like OSB is probably not good to season.
yeah,
that.
particle board. I like to use PVC pipe.
I'm a big fan of the railroad ties.
Yeah, those are great.
That green smoke it emanates. It's like the absinthe of smoking woods.
Yeah, I often use I'll buy a barrel of crude oil. I like to just pour that all over whatever I'm eating. Delicious. Olive oil, canola oil, crude oil. It's my go-to.
It's like when we talked about Kentucky marmalade.
Yeah.
So why the Mothman? Why Mothman dust? Seems like you know a little story behind the old Mothman, huh? I used to know something about it as a kid, but it's been so many years.
Right. Well, we were talking about the Bat Boy. The Bat Boy was a cryptid, which maybe some people don't know, but cryptids are imaginary to some creatures that people spend their whole lives trying to find. I mean, the most notable that probably everyone knows about is Sasquatch, Bigfoot,
Loch Ness.
Yeah, Loch Ness, Nessie. That's a great one. But those are all cryptids.
Man, bear, pig.
There's a we made fun of rubologist as a career path, but there actually are cryptozoologists. They're people that base themselves in that as a career, and they try to find animals that people don't think exist, or not even animals, but humanoids, aliens.
So this is like the guy that does like Coast to Coast AM almost, like where they talk about the lizard people and the dog people.
Yeah, all this could be cryptozoology. So
love that show.
yeah, the Bat Boy for me it came down to being my all-purpose rub because as I was growing up, I just loved the Bat Boy. I don't know why, but I remember seeing it in a store on the National Enquirer, and from that point on, every time I saw it, I was like, "Mom, please let me buy that. It's got the Bat Boy on it."
Yeah, like the person you had that did the art for that rub. Like,
Yeah.
I love that. It's got the Bat Boy like squatted down with ribs in his mouth.
Yeah, and
screaming.
the guy that did that art is actually a native West Virginian, and that's another thing that I do is I try to source all my art.
What's his name?
His name's Sean Murphy.
Sean Murphy, if you're out there listening, we thank you for listening. And also, I'd like to include some clip art when we upload the episode to YouTube. So we'll try to give you a little bit of a plug there if we can.
But yeah, he's a great guy, funny guy, tattoo artist, does a lot of awesome stuff. But like I said, I just wanted to include these artists that are from our state, from our area, from Appalachia, to just have an all-encompassing brand. But back to the Mothman. The Mothman started out in 1966, 67, and the first sightings around here were in Point Pleasant, West Virginia.
I was say it was either Point Pleasant or like Harper's Ferry, I thought. But
Yeah, well, there have been multiple sightings throughout the state, but the most notable place was Point Pleasant back in the 60s. There was a military installation deep in the woods. I wouldn't necessarily call it top secret, but it was, people didn't know about
I
it.
mean, I wager at that time it was probably pretty secret. This is what year did you say?
66.
So we're like Cold War era.
Yeah, so it's literally a bunker in the middle of the woods in Point Pleasant. I've had the pleasure of being there. Very creepy. But people were at this TNT area, which also houses an abandoned power plant, and they saw what they thought was a giant bird or a giant bat. They didn't know what it was, but they said it was about 6 feet tall, glowing red eyes, kind of like a man, but also like a bat. And this was also around the time that Batman was huge. I mean, the comic series was just exploding at that time.
And I remember reading stories about this, of people's accounts of, like, they were driving home in that area and something latched onto the car, and when they got pulled over, it was like the steel was almost melted where the talon or claws had ripped through, like, the hood or the roof of the car.
Right. I actually saw a newspaper article from back then that said 6-foot-plus Birdman, 100+ mile per hour speeds. I mean, just stuff that couldn't even happen, but people were freaking out back then. I mean, nobody'd ever heard or seen of anything like this, but he actually got his name from the comics being huge back then. The guy that was writing the stories for the newspaper was a Batman fan, and he was like, oh, we should call this thing the Mothman.
Mothman, Batman, Superman, Aquaman?
Yeah, so the
Justice League
the Mothman got his name through that, but I guess throughout history, there's been a lot of accounts of Mothman-like creatures. For people that don't know, whenever the Mothman came to Point Pleasant, people started seeing him, and then leading up to all of the times people saw the Mothman, all these sightings, all these occurrences, shortly after, there was a bridge called the Silver Bridge, and it collapsed. 30+ people died. A couple of people were never even found after their cars plummeted into this river. But after that, nobody saw the Mothman anymore. You went from having hundreds of sightings to zero in the blink of an eye. To get even a little creepier with it, I mean, we're talking, as far as some written histories go back, people have reported seeing like giant bird creatures before a disaster. Specifically, some people have said that it resembles the Archangel Azrael, like the angel of destruction, and that maybe this is actually like, you know, the foreboding archangel coming to tell you that something real bad's going to happen.
The end is near.
Yeah. Maybe not necessarily the end, but the end of something, the end of a bridge in this case. But yeah, it's pretty creepy to think about.
Oh, let's see here. So what would you say would be the greatest challenge, though, that you've had to face during your time getting your business up and running?
There's a few challenges, honestly, and I think they're all equally encompassing. First of all, sticking with it is hard. I mean, if you decide you're going to sell something for money, it's different than if you're just giving it to your friends. And I mean, you're trying to build a brand, trying to stay consistent with things. And I think above all else, you have to have a real dedication to customer service. I mean, you have to treat, in my case, it's ounces of rubs, but it could be whatever anybody else is dealing with. I mean, you have to give that person that has a small order that may never come back the same amount of customer service as the guy who's always ordering
pounds of the stuff
every week. I mean, you have to treat everybody like they matter. And I think at the end of the day, I think remembering that is one of the biggest challenges.
That's the same thing I do with every client I've had for voiceover, for whether it's a contract for $50 or $500. They get the same amount of quality and care, because you never know that one guy that bought like 1 ounce rub off here, like one little pack, he could be working for a major restaurant and be like, hey, this guy makes this stuff, we want to source it, put it in our restaurants, and then bam.
Right. And at the same time for me, I think dealing with having stuff that's outsourced is another huge issue. I mean, like for me, labeling, I can't do my own labels, so a lot of times I have to wait. If I have a huge order, when I don't have enough labels, a lot of times I have to tell people, hey, I'm running behind with my labeling guy. They're in the mail, they're on their way here, but they're not ready yet. So your order's going to get to you, but it's going to take a couple extra days. And usually people are fine with that, but I mean, even just remembering to reach out whenever you have this side
professional
business.
Courtesy, yeah.
Right. I mean, and that's another thing you have to remember with a lot of these things, is it's a side job. I mean, it's not people's real job per se. So
Not yet, knock on wood, but
right. So you're just sitting idly by at your other job, thinking, "Oh man, I need to tell this person that for my other job."
yeah. Yeah, and that's something I've run into with clients of my own, to where they don't need to know that this is a part-time gig, because fake it till you make it. Hey, you're full-time all the time.
Right.
So, I mean, for clients that I had when I first moved, I had an active client after I'd moved into this house, and the studio was nowhere near ready.
Right.
Like, I was hanging quilts up and all this other shit to get as sound deadening as I could, and it didn't work. And they were very patient, but I could tell through all the professional jargon that we both throw at each other in emails was like, layman's terms translated to, "Look, man, you need to hurry this shit up."
Right.
And so, I mean, they were only paying me, I think it was like $60 for the current contract, and I had to dump almost $2,000 into the soundproofing that
Ready,
you see
right.
here. But the end all of that was they gave me kudos for the quick turnaround, the quick service, and I kept them constantly updated, sent them pictures of the studio getting constructed. And at the end of that, though, they were super grateful for it, very impressed, to where they gave me a contract for a much larger client that I'm really hoping to get to work with. That's the guys for that Red Ruin Softworks for that Breath Edge game
Right.
that I was very excited to be a part of.
Yeah, and I don't know if you run into this with voice acting, but something that drives me nuts is dealing with rubs and seasonings. The stuff you buy in the store a lot of times, say you buy garlic powder.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's garlic powder, right? It's got to be the same thing you get anywhere. Well, if you look at the back of it, a lot of times your garlic powder has a bunch of other additives,
Mm-hmm.
not only to keep the taste fresh or whatever they say it's for, but it's also anti-clumping.
Yeah.
So that's another reason that I try to sell stuff in smaller amounts and smaller packages, is because I don't use any anti-clumping agents in there. So people a lot of times will get mad or send hate mail like, "This is all clumped together," and not even the whole package will be clumped together, but it would just have a couple of clumps in it from stuff just sticking together.
Well, it's because when you're selling a small batch like that, it's not supposed to sit in a pantry or whatever for long periods of time.
Right.
You get it, you unseal it when you're ready to use it, and then you use the whole packet like this. Yeah, if you're doing this on a pork butt or a bunch of steaks or a bunch of burgers, yeah, I don't see those 4 ounces of seasoning lasting very long.
Right, it doesn't. But at the same time, I mean, I do everything little by little, and hopefully stuff gets used fast. But once I explain stuff to people, usually it's because there's no anti-clumping agent
Well,
in
see,
that.
what we're running into is it's the give and take of it. We're in a point, not only with our, I guess, economy, but we're in the point where small business and craft service, craft goods are making a huge comeback.
Right, absolutely.
Because like our previous generation, like our parents' generation, right, they went from having everything done small batch like that because that was the only way. Now then there was mass production invented, and we can make all this so much, consistent and fast and big.
Yeah.
But now you look at it because there's all the anti-clumping agents and stuff, all the artificial preservatives and everything in that. So a lot of people are going, "Oh, wow, that's actually not healthy for you."
Right.
So now small batch artisanal crafted goods is hugely in demand.
Yeah.
And people forget that if you want something good, it's going to take a little bit of extra time. And there's certain things that we paid for through convenience, like anti-clumping, that people forget, that they don't know. It doesn't clump. It's not supposed to just because. That's not how it works.
Right. I think another big thing that people forget is a lot of stuff that you buy in the store, especially barbecue things, they have a ton of sugar in them.
Oh, yeah.
And sugar's cheap. I mean, you'll look at any barbecue rub on the shelf for the most part, especially bigger brands, and the first ingredient in all of them is sugar.
High fructose corn syrup.
Well, I think that would definitely lead to clumping. But yeah, sugar. I mean, it's cheap, so you're buying product by weight.
Why don't you do like a barbecue paste? Then?
Yeah.
You know, use the high fructose corn syrup make it as a bonding agent. Yeah, it's going to clump. It's going to be gooey and delicious.
Just use a barbecue toothpaste.
And then you just rub it down, and then you charbroil it to where it just caramelizes and candies the outer layer of your beef.
Why does your breath smell like pulled pork? I just used my my pulled pork paste this morning. Oh, you're supposed to use toothpaste.
Oh, man, I would buy that in a heartbeat.
Oh, it sounds terrible.
Oh, the only issue would be like you'd have to keep touching it. Don't eat it. Don't swallow it.
Yeah, don't swallow it. Spit it out.
I don't want it.
Could be like those people that work at distilleries and just try bourbon all day and spit it in a bucket.
Wasteful.
Yeah.
Wasteful.
Can't imagine being the people that, I mean, my product takes no time to make. Stuff's already dehydrated. It's usually ground by somebody else and I mix it together. But can you imagine being those bourbon people that spend, 10 years getting a barrel of bourbon ready and blending it and then just tasting it to spit it out?
Yeah. That was like that one time I bought the Johnny Walker Blue Label Special Reserve.
Yeah.
Got a bottle of that because I was convinced that I was going to end up getting killed at a job. And I was like, you know what? The good stuff. And it was like a $700 or $476 bottle of scotch.
Yeah.
And I remember we looked up the serial number and everything and did the research on it and found out that bottle was 75 years old. And I was like, holy shit. So getting back to it here, so what has rub making taught you about yourself?
Honestly, I don't know that it's taught me anything about myself. I mean, I think it's definitely expanded my palate. It's taught me what tastes like what when it comes to basic cooking, what goes well together, and how different certain things can be just because you brought whatever you're cooking to life with a certain herb or spice. I learned that quality products really do matter when it comes to certain things. I source all of my salts from J.Q. Dickinson, which is the oldest and only salt mine in West Virginia. But just using those salts, they taste bright, they taste clean.
Not muddled down with anticoagulants and anti-clumping agents.
Right. I mean, it's weird how differently they taste. Like I said, as far as self-discovery goes, I mean, I think it's just broadening those horizons and just reaching out for products that you wouldn't normally reach out for or try. It can make a big difference.
All right. So I guess my final question about your small business here for the Appalachian Huntsman, where do you see this going? Where do you want to see it going? Do you want to go to Kroger or Myers or Walmart and see your product on the shelves, or like a Trader Joe's or whatever? Or?
The weird thing is, I feel like a lot of people would want that. They would really want the clout, I guess you would say, of saying like, oh yeah, they sell my stuff.
I made it.
They sell my stuff here or there. But I like dealing with things on the small time. I mean, I would much rather be that guy that people go to their local farmer's market or their local store and pick that up to give to their friends. Or they're like, oh, this stuff comes from back home. You should give it a try. Like, this guy's the only one that makes it. I mean, I never want to be that person that sells my stuff out to somewhere else to make it and I'm just making the money from it. Like, I always want to be involved and I always want to help it evolve and grow and make people happy.
Yeah.
I mean, even if, like, we're talking about the product itself, but even just the marketing, I mean, the Mothman, that makes people happy. I mean, there's people out there that just collect Mothman things. I mean,
I do love the cartoon art for the Mothman.
Yeah, it's
he's just sitting there at a table.
Yeah, and that's another local artist. That's Liz Pavlovic from Morgantown. She makes a ton of great cryptid art, and she's just an all-around good person. But I mean, she's another one of those people that's out there just doing something that makes her happy, and in turn, it makes other people happy. I mean, and I can't stress enough, at the end of the day, I think that's one of the key components of a small business is it makes you happy. I mean, like...
So you work, or, do what you love.
Yeah.
You never work a day in your life.
I mean, look at McDonald's, how that started out. Two brothers selling hamburgers, and it blossomed into this crazy thing, but I mean, it's just what they liked doing.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen the documentary Happy? It used to be on Netflix. I don't know if it still is.
I don't know about the documentary, but there's a show on Netflix called Happy about like a ex-cop that's like addicted to alcohol and drugs, and he befriends his daughter's imaginary donkey flying unicorn friend that's voiced by Patton Oswalt.
Yeah, that's not the one. This documentary, like, there's a guy on there who's worked at Waffle House for, I can't remember the number of years. He says he's worked at Waffle House, but he loves working at the Waffle House.
Who doesn't love Waffle House?
Well, I love it, but I can't imagine working there. But yeah, he's just like, it brings me joy. He's like, I could go somewhere else. I could find a better job, but I love working here. Like, I love the people.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's, at the end of the day, that's...
That right there, though, that's that struggle to... You want to do well for yourself outside of having a regular day job, and you want your passion to provide for you, to which that you've become accustomed to.
Right.
But you also don't want to succeed so well that you are like over encumbered with mass amounts of clouds and success, but you still want to make it, but you also want to remain humble.
Right. Absolutely. And I think, what is the phrase? Oh, it takes money to make money.
Oh God. Yeah.
Well, I think whenever people say it takes money to make money.
How many times has somebody told you that since you've started up?
Oh, plenty of times. And not only in that, but I mean, throughout life, I've heard that. And to me, I always thought that it meant, you have to spend money in order to get, any sort of business back. But as I look at it now, being a business owner, I think that it means you have to be in a good spot before you start out.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the mistake a lot of people make.
Jump in too early.
Yeah. I mean, I remember years ago, I heard this statistic that only 34% of restaurants that open are ever successful
past 6 months or something.
Yeah, I think it was the 2-year mark.
Oh,
but
wow.
Regardless, it's not very long.
No.
And I think one of the biggest mistakes that gets made there is people get straight out of culinary school or come straight off of their education, and they're just like, oh, I'm going to start a restaurant.
They've never gone anywhere yet to expand the palate.
That's what I'm going to do. Well, not even that, but they don't have any money. I mean, if you start out your business, especially in a smaller town, $500,000 in debt because you're opening this restaurant, how long is it going to take you to make enough money to even...
If you don't have the clientele to
even swim out of that hole? I mean...
Yeah.
So I think it takes money to make money can be taken a lot of different ways, but I think making sure you're on your feet before you start trying to make money.
Yeah, that's, for me, for getting started with my side business was just crawling.
Right.
Like I started out with like a cheap $40-some blue Yeti Snowball microphone, and I had a portrait rack to hang backdrops that I angled around me and put a big quilt over it, and just started working on Reddit for free and did that for like 2 years.
Right.
And then finally started to get things that paid, and now I'm working steadily. But I mean, the first big step I had was making the jump into clientele, was to get representation and access to paying clients, which is why I went through voices.com.
Yeah.
But it's $500 for the year. And I hadn't grossed $1 on any contract really prior to that, other than like one that paid me $20.
Right.
And having to realize, look, $500 is a lot of money. I don't really, unless you're like a millionaire, for me, for working people, blue collar workers, like that's a lot of money that could be on the plate of your dinner. I mean, you go, ooh, it's going to be tight, but if I do this, it's kind of a gamble. Like you're taking that leap of faith.
Right.
And I'm not to the point yet where I'm like, oh yeah, I got this. I just, every contract, every audition for me is a struggle, and I worry about it. And
right.
You just hope.
And it's one of those things where you pour out, or you pour in what you want out as well. I mean, I went with, whenever I was building stuff up, I knew that I wanted nice labels, and I wanted professional art, and I wanted certain things out there. I mean, I could have been that person who didn't follow the "it takes money to make money" moniker, and I could have been like, well, Microsoft Paint is free.
Yeah.
And Photoshop is cool, and I'm just going to put this text in here, and oh, that looks terrible. Yep, slap it on there. That'll do.
Hey, that's how I did with my first YouTube channel. I used Microsoft Paint and chopped my face out of a bunch of shit and just put it on with whatever like royalty free clip art I could find, and be like, catchy title, bright colors. That's all the kids need. That's all the people need.
Yeah, and that
my videos. Real quick disclaimer: videos were never meant for kids. Okay, even though they were video games, there was no language and stuff. So
yeah, it was and that idea's in a dumpster somewhere now because you used Microsoft Paint.
Oh no, it's in the dumpster. It's known as privatized because of all the BS that's going on with YouTube right now. I don't even want to get into that.
But mostly because of Microsoft Paint. I think that's who's to blame here. But yeah, I love whenever people have a great idea, but they just can't put it into motion because they don't want to. I mean, you have to keep that drive behind it in order for it to keep going.
Yeah.
I mean, I think another thing to throw out there whenever people have business ideas is you can't just do something that everybody else is doing and be successful and be a huge business. I mean, we know people that start small businesses and it's like, oh, another one of those.
Yeah.
I mean, you see, especially in West Virginia in the middle of nowhere, it seems like every big business that starts up, it's like, oh, another car dealership. Oh, another Dollar General. Oh, another church. I mean, you can only do the same thing so many
another
times.
hatchet-throwing bar.
Yeah. I mean, people will take one good idea and try to just redo it. You really have to think outside of the box.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm not saying nobody's done barbecue rubs and barbecue spices.
You got to do it in a way that makes it your own.
I don't think that people are taking cryptids and putting it into an Appalachian spice blend and then using that as a way to use more Appalachian things and then put it out to anybody that wants it. I mean, that's the idea that I took and ran with because I knew nobody was doing that.
Well, that's like, I tell a lot of people when it comes down to how they are in general, be genuine, be who you are.
Right.
Like for this show, I don't really watch or listen to any other podcasts out there. I knew I wanted something all-encompassing. I knew what I wanted, and I don't want anything to taint that. I just want to stay with whatever our formula is. And we're 3 seasons in. I still haven't really figured out what it is that we're doing, but apparently, according to some people, we're doing some stuff right.
Right.
But,
I mean, all I really took out of that statement was the word taint. I like that you said it. I have one. But no, I completely agree. You have to learn what you're doing, and if you're learning while you go, that's part of getting there. I mean, that's part of the fun in it all is by the time you get to season 1,376, you're going to look back at season 2 and be like, man, things were crazy back then.
200 subscribers now. Yeah. It only took 10 years.
Yeah, back in 2020, we didn't even know that the cryo chambers were going to come about and we were going to live for 7,000 years.
Who would have thought that pumpkin spice killed COVID?
Yeah, who knew that you had to get the coronavirus in order to be immune to the super coronavirus?
To COVID-20.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy how that works out.
But speaking of tainted, we're now at that point in our show. We're going to taint the shit out of this ever-loving interview here and steer us into a different direction that was specially requested here by Buck. It's become somewhat of a staple on the show, where we play ourselves another round of AI Dungeon. So, to get it started, choose your adventure type. We have fantasy, mystery, apocalyptic, zombies, cyberpunk, custom, which kind of works, and then there's an archive, which I don't know. So, this AI Dungeon got one hell of an update, so I'm still figuring it all out.
Well, in true Buck Strickland fashion, I think we have to go with apocalyptic.
Alrighty. Do you want to be a soldier, a survivor, or a courier?
Survivor for sure.
What shall your name be, sir?
Let's just go with Buck.
All right.
It may think I'm a deer or a dollar. I don't know.
You are Buck, a survivor trying to survive in a post-apocalyptic world by scavenging among the ruins of what is left. You have a backpack and a canteen. You haven't eaten in 2 days, so you're desperately searching for food. You enter a rundown building and see a half-eaten corpse on the floor. This might be a good opportunity to fill your stomach, or you could just leave. Your quest is to find some food. What do you do?
We're definitely gonna leave. I'm not eating a rotten corpse. That's just gonna make you sick. Then you're gonna be the next corpse.
You leave. You decide not to eat the dead body and leave the building. You have to scavenge for food every day or die. You wake up in a cold sweat. It's just a nightmare. You're not really going to eat that corpse.
Yeah, no, we're definitely not gonna eat the corpse. I say we walk outside and set some snares with supplies from my backpack. Maybe we can catch a rabbit to season with Appalachian Huntsman. That's how we really know if AI Dungeon's listening.
You walk outside and set animal snares with the supplies from your backpack. You walk outside the cave and see a hawk circling high above you. You feel it as a sign from the god that you should continue your journey as a shaman. Maybe your dreams will become so vivid that you don't need to eat animals anymore. You suddenly hear a sound behind you. Now, if you don't want to do anything, you can let the story process just by, hitting enter.
Yeah, just process it one time and see what it does.
You turn around to see an animal snare hanging from the ceiling. A large animal snare made of leather and sinew. You're frightened that it might attack, but it only seemed to be waiting for you to leave before attacking.
We should put some bait in that snare.
This is weird, like the snare is going to attack you?
Yeah, it's a very weird storyline so far.
You walk over to the snare and tear off some leather strips to use as bait. Then you tie it to a pole so you can easily find it again. You place bait in the snare and secure it.
Nothing like a good bit of leather to eat. Let's see. We secured the snare. Let's just walk outside.
You walk outside, not knowing what to expect. Seeing a mountain lion at close range is a rare and frightening experience. You can't help but picture the scene in the film Jaws when Quintal, isn't it just Quint? Says, it's not much of a mountain lion. The reality is much different. I'm going to process that to see what it's going to give us.
Yeah. Oh boy.
You see a large cat, nearly as large as your dog. It isn't very shy and bolts in an instant. You don't even get a good look at it. You hope you see one again. You're in no position to be running fast.
Let's try to cut the mountain lion off somewhere.
Was it a mountain lion or was it the Mothman?
Or was it a cat? It was a house cat. I mean, we're starving here.
Was it a cat, you say? You look around and see the others staring at you. They don't say anything, but they're clearly judging you. You continue your search for animal prey, but you only find more dead bodies in dire need of scavenging.
Can we start looking for plants to eat?
You look for plants to eat. You walk around with your canteen trying to identify fruits and vegetables. Most of the food is beyond help, but you find some stew and bread that might still be edible. It's getting dark, and the others are calling it a day. Quest completed. Oh, that's cool. Okay, next quest. Oh, no, it actually adds quest. That's neat. So find some food we checked off. The next quest, find a safe community.
Okay. I don't know how good that stew and bread's gonna be after an apocalyptic setting, but
apparently, I don't know. Let's process it and get it to restart us, I think, or get us moving.
it'll get us to do something.
You've tried eating everything you can, but there has to be something left untried. You're loading up on supplies when you notice a large animal trap, clearly made to snare a bear or similar-sized creature. You decide to check the smaller interior traps.
Was this the trap that I said earlier? This is confusing.
It doesn't really say, welcome to the madness that is AI Dungeon.
Yeah, make sure all the traps are baited.
You check all the traps to make sure they aren't broken. You find 3 sets of bear traps, 2 snares, and a trapper's pot filled with sharpened sticks. When you're done, you set up a snare up high and secure it to a tree. I feel like we should just wait.
Yeah, probably just wait.
You go back and get a fire going. You light it and put the stew near the fire to cook. You're hit by a strong smell in the distance. You walk as fast as you can to the source of the smell.
Just process.
The closer you get, the stronger the smell becomes. Eventually, you see a figure, a small one, barely 5 feet tall. The being has long blonde hair and a thin body. It's a girl. She approaches you slowly into the light.
Hug her.
It's really thinking on this one.
Do you remember your first kiss?
Do you remember your first kiss?
You run up and hug her. She returns the hug with equal enthusiasm. After a few moments, she pulls away to look at you. What's your name? Shamino. Apparently your name is Shamino now. I'm Hayes, she says.
Didn't we go to high school together?
Didn't we go to high school together, you say? She smiles and nods. I remember you, she says. You used to have long hair and play the mandolin.
Ask her if she has a rod and reel.
Please don't take this out of context, AI Dungeon.
Oh boy.
You say, do you have a rod and reel? Yes, I do, she says. She fishes out a quality reed outfit and a nice-looking steel rod with a reel already attached. Do you want to go fishing? You look over the area for any fish. You spot a few possible spots.
Take her to the pond.
You take her to the pond. We'll go there, you say. You get a few worms from a bag and start baiting your own hook. I don't have any bait. Do you have any? She asks.
Give her one of your worms. but not your worm.
I don't want to type. I almost typed in "give her your worm." She takes the worm and turns it over in her hands. What's it for? It'll catch fish. She nods and gets to work preparing her own bait. After you're set, you cast your line out and wait.
Process.
You look to see if Hayes has any interest, but she's focused on her task. Do you use this rod a lot, you ask? Yes, she says. I like fishing. It's relaxing.
You catch a fish.
You're fortunate enough to catch a decent fish on your first cast. You pull it in slowly and almost have a heart attack when the hook is pulled right out. You look more closely and see that it's empty. I don't see a fish. I did. I don't
understand.
I don't know.
You got the fish, but so the fish got away? Is that what we're getting at?
You're hallucinating.
Yeah, or say you ask her if you were hallucinating.
Am I hallucinating, you ask? Yes, she laughs. I won't fool you again. You give her a dirty look while fishing around for the last crawdad, which you put back in the pond. You bite it in half and feed it to the fish.
That's a terrible idea.
Digest.
You feel sick from biting the crawdad in half, and you throw up.
You feel sick from biting the crawdad in half and throw up. You throw up on the side of the pond. I'm sorry about that. She looks at you. You don't look sick, she says. You can throw up all you want. Just throw up on her.
Slip in your throw up. See a real Family Guy situation developing here.
You slip in the throw up and start to fall. Hayes grabs at your hands just before you hit water, but your reflexes are slowed enough that you do not hold on to them.
Oh, you happen to fall on a fish.
You splash down into the water. Getting out of the water is much more difficult, but you manage with Hayes' help. How weak are we? Out of breath, you finally get a hold of yourself. You look at Hayes and realize you're very cold.
Ask her to warm you up.
I feel like this is going to get bad.
Mm-hmm.
She looks at you and shrugs. Sure. She takes off her shirt and gives it to you. You put it on and feel a lot warmer. Wow, thanks. Thank you, AI Dungeon. You took the safe path.
She didn't use body heat at all.
No.
Ask her to take you back to your colony.
Oh, I spelled colony wrong. I wrote it down as cloney. But apparently, quest completed.
Oh, boy.
You ask Ash to take her back to her cloney. She nods. Sure, she says. She leads you back to her community. It's a very long walk, but you don't mind doing with Hayes. As you arrive, the people there pause exactly how you left them.
Process?
And that was it.
The end.
I mean, it says quest complete. We can process it.
I wonder what happens if you just keep processing. An AI dungeon first.
Yeah, let's see. Hayes and you smile at each other before entering. You can go in now, she says. I have to get back to work. You nod and enter.
Beautiful. We found our place in the apocalypse. And
I mean, you can keep going if you want. I feel like it's a pretty tame ending.
It is a very tame ending. Pull out your flamethrower.
You pull out your flamethrower and look around. You see this large wooden box. It looks fairly heavy, so you might need the strength of 100 men to move it. You walk over to it and pick it up, noticing that it's much heavier than you expected.
Set it on fire.
You light the flamethrower on fire and hold it out to the side. You've never used one of these before, but you remember seeing a demonstration when you were in Sekro's office. You pump the trigger and fire it straight at the wall.
Scott pops out and says, "Let me show you how to use that."
The fire erupts from the end and rains down on the target. After about a minute, the wall is on fire, and you move on to another wall. After you're done burning down the town, you leave the building. The people look on in awe as you walk out.
This is how I repaid that community.
You walk up to the captain and his men as they stand around a campfire. Oh, wow, we're going way off now. You set the box down next to the fire and look them all in the eye.
AI Dungeon's very confused right now.
They look nervous. You must have a very stern demeanor. Leave, you say in a low voice. I do not wish to cause you any harm. They look at each other, but then they pick up the box and start walking away. Their leader turns to face you.
Say, I'm the captain now.
Oh, shit, no. You say, I'm the captain now. You turn and march over to the other captain. What's your name, you ask? Jacob, he says. I'm Owen. Well, apparently our name is Owen now. He extends a hand, which you grasp and shake.
You pull him to the ground and stab him in the back of the head.
You pull him to the ground and quickly twist your knife into his head. It goes through his skull with a sickening squoosh. The man's face is contorted in pain, but after a moment, he still breathes.
Break his neck.
You grab the man's neck and twist it. He screams as his legs kick in midair, but after a few seconds he goes still. You stand and look at the dead body.
Take his crew and go inside the colony? The story's changed so much, it's hard to keep up. I need a visual aid.
I don't even know my name anymore.
Oh, are we Owen now?
You take the duffel bag of money and leave the captain's crew behind. You walk towards the Humvees, armed with an Uzi and a knife. You get in one of the Humvees and point your gun out the window.
Is this forgotten we're in an apocalypse? What
I
are
don't
we going to do with a bag of money? Save the money to burn for warmth.
Wait, where do you want me to start, you ask? You look over at the burning wall. The fire is spreading rapidly, fueled by the thickets of underbrush and dry leaves that the wall was protecting you from. They built the wall to protect them from leaves. Soon the entire compound will be on fire.
Grab their food and get in the Humvee.
You quickly walk over to the left side of the Humvee, where a large crate with MREs written on it in big block letters.
Oh, yeah.
You open it and find a huge supply of MREs, including a pretty large amount of chicken meals.
Jalapeno cheddar.
You grab a large bag and look around for a spoon. You find one, and a fork in the right corner of the bag. You mix the contents of the bag with a utensil and scarf it down.
The Mothman swoops down and steals the remainder of our MREs.
As you drive the Humvee around the compound, you spot something out of place. A large humanoid figure just sitting there. You drive over to it and find a statue with wings standing in the middle of the road. You're not a statue.
Statue comes to life.
Suddenly, the wings spread and what resembles a mothoid face with multiple eyes appears on the head of the statue. It looks up at you with its many eyes. You swerve the vehicle to avoid hitting it, but the statue disappears in a cloud of black flies.
You try to outrun the cloud of flies.
You continue driving, but soon you see a swarm of flies beginning to block the road ahead. You slam on the brakes, but the tires only skid a bit before coming to a stop.
You take off on foot.
You run to the front of the car and take off on foot. The sky is black and you can't even see your hand in front of your face. The flies begin biting your body and soon you find yourself crawling on the ground. You try to crawl through them, but the flies are everywhere. They cover your mouth and your nose and you begin to suffocate. You see the cabin of the vehicle you were driving through the swarm of flies. As your vision fades, you notice something in the distance. The sun. You died.
Oh, what a great way to go. That wasn't a tame ending at all. It was like The Exorcist mixed with the Amityville Horror.
Wasn't bad.
No. I talked about a lot of nonsense.
I like it. Well, guys, that looks like all the time we have here for this episode. We hope you enjoyed it. A few twists and turns there at the end. That was highly entertaining. But all in all, not a bad day here. So thank you again for stopping by. Thanks for tuning in. And don't forget all the other different ways here that you can listen. iHeart Radio, Stitcher, Spotify, Sounder, Google Podcasts, iTunes, and if you need that glorious BS fireplace playing on your television set there in the background, hit us right there up at youtube.com. Also, don't forget about the merchandising shop. That's shop.spreadshirt.com/TET Show, TETSHOW. We will include links in the description here below for the Appalachian Huntsman and the guys responsible for the salt, the logos, and the art for Mothman. But thanks again, guys, for stopping by. Thanks for tuning in. And until we see you here next time on the show, peace out.